Alright, let's give this image a try. This is NGC 6820. We have our hydrogen alpha data there, and we have our O3 data here, and we have our S2 data there. Let's go ahead and just kind of drag these over to the side. And if you combine your image to your Hubble palette, pretty much this is what you will get here. And if you do a automatic screen transfer function, we will get to this image. So we're going to try a couple of new things with new software that has come out. This has allowed me to switch up a little bit. The processing routine gives me a little bit more control of colors, stars, and just overall better processing in my opinion. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So I am going to try to do an automatic, not automatic, just a stretch on my own instead of using the screen transfer function. So let's go ahead and start from scratch here. We can maximize this image there, and let's go to that image, and I'll just rename it here SHO, and let's go to it. Alright, so I'll go to the histogram transformation function there and try to just give it an initial stretch. It's most likely going to be very green just because your data is all the way out there. So let's go ahead and try to align these up together, and that will hopefully give us a more aesthetic image. So let's start by just decreasing the green and decreasing some of that blue. And I'm just going to preview that and see what that looks like. Alright. So there we have kind of a good starting point, and we're going to try to even these out. We're going to give it a little bit more stretch here, and I'm going to stop where we are not clipping any data there. Drop the green, and a little bit more of the blue. And always just kind of preview that before anything. If we decide not to stretch the green, it doesn't give us much of a difference. So let's go ahead and try to just even these out. And what I'm looking for is just a starting point where things look more or less pleasing in a sense to kind of start out with. Alright, let's give this a try here. So I'll go ahead and close that out there and give it a go there. Alright, so with this image, one of the first things that we are actually going to do is from the simple stretch function, we can see that we have a couple of things that did not correct out some of these kind of hot pixels in the different channels. So I will go ahead and just save this image. Let's go to data, and let's go to let's make a new file here, a new folder. Alright. And I'm going to save that as a TIFF. 16-bit, and hit OK. And then essentially what I'm going to do is just go ahead and try to correct that in Photoshop. New folder. And what I'm going to do is just the spot healing here. We can kind of zoom into the image, and wherever we see some hot pixels there, we can go ahead and just correct that. So just kind of make that disappear by clicking on it, and essentially we'll just scan the image more or less up and down. If we do come across anything that we see that needs to be corrected, I'll just kind of click on it, and it should auto correct it real nicely there. And some pixels here. Alright, looks pretty good there. We've kind of corrected all the little imperfections there, so let's go ahead and save as. And we're going to say this is the corrected version. And let's bring that back into PixInsight. So we'll kind of switch this over here. Move that across there. Alright, so one of the new things that has come out is Russell Croman's convolution using AI. And so this is a real neat tool. It's going to make everything real nice and sharp. Going to shrink those stars, make them nice and tack sharp. And so usually I will apply this when I have done an initial stretch, and that's when you want to do it. So I will drag it over, and then we can go from there. This is going to take a while, so I will pause this here. I guess that won't pause it, but let's see if okay. Well, we'll just wait for this to hit 100% then. so we're coming up pretty close here, 90%. And let's see what it is going to give us. Alright, so you can see real nicely there. We'll kind of go to this section here. If we undo, you can see how bloated the stars are, how our little pillars here are not very sharp, and then when we redo that, it really tacks down everything nice and sharp, sharpens your pillars, doesn't do a lot of artifact introduction or anything like that. So I really like this routine here for sharpening. If you take a look at this outline here, it really brings it home as far as making it nice and tack sharp. Now, we like the size of the stars, we like everything in this image, but we want to kind of mess around with the colors to give it a more aesthetic presentation, or whatever you may like. So from here, the other tool that I really like is StarNet 2. This is to make a starless image, and we're going to hit create star mask. So we'll go ahead and drag this over. This is also a little bit of a lengthy process, and so it will basically eliminate the stars and create a starless image for us. And what our goal is to essentially process this image without the stars. That way we can generate color mass without having to worry about the stars at all as far as color goes, and as far as having to mess with the stars while we're using those color masks to either create bloating or just odd colorations of the stars that we'll have to later correct. So we're going to try to process the image without any stars, and then go ahead and actually introduce the stars back on there and add them. And I'll kind of show you how that's done once we've reached an image that we're kind of happy with. So this is almost done here, 70%, and so we'll wait. We'll wait till this finishes up to see what it gives us. Alright, so it does give us the stars that it eliminated, and I'm going to just name this as stars, and we'll minimize this and keep this off to the side. Alright, so now you can see, you can kind of toggle back and forward, and you can see how nicely this starless image is without any images. And so now we can just focus on correcting these colors. We'll go to scripts, utilities, and generate our color mask. So color mask, we'll start with the green. We'll do a blur factor of 3, and we'll generate a couple of different star masks. If your star masks are too grainy, you might consider just bumping that up in the sense of the blur factor here. Let's try 5 and see what that does. And if it's too blurry, we can kind of always go back. So that is a little bit soft. So let's see, script, utilities, color mask. Let's see what 4 gives us here. So 4 is still pretty grainy. 5 is a little bit smoother, so let's go with 5 and see how that does. It won't matter because we'll be redoing a LRGB image using the luminance from here. So all the details should be restored. So we'll go to 5. Let's go magenta, see if there's any magenta in there. But I think it's mostly going to be green. That's predominantly in this image. There's a little bit of magenta in there. And let's see if there's any blue. Very light on the blue as well. And let's see if there is any yellow. Usually there's some yellow in there. Yep, lots of yellow here. Alright, so let's go ahead and with this yellow, I'm getting a kind of banding pattern, so I'm actually gonna blur that a little bit more. Yellow, let's bump it up to 6 and see how that turns out there. Okay, that's a little bit better. Alrighty, so we are gonna extract the synthetic luminance from here, just so that we have something to reapply, just in case the detail starts to decrease because of our mask. But let's start off with our green and let's apply it and see what we can do. Mask, we're going to say show mask off. Alrighty, and let's make sure we change that to the SHO corrected. Alright, so if we start to, on the green channel, increase the red, you can see how it's going to affect that image there. So let's play around with some of the blue. Decrease some of the red, or increase some of the green. Okay. Off and on. And let's do one more iteration of that. Cyan here. Let's bump up the blue there. And let's see, decrease some of the reds. And the second iteration is just quite a bit too much there. But you can see how your colors start to now more closely match your Hubble palette there. The magenta, let's see, it's a pretty weak mask, but we can see over here, if we bump up the red, you'll see it at the edges there. So we're going to decrease a little bit of the red there. The blue, not much going on there. Let's hit our yellows up and see what that does for us. Okay, with the yellows, let's go bump it up there, or decrease it there. Let's increase the green. Alright. Alright. Another thing that you can also do is actually use the luminance as a mask itself and see what you can do by adjusting the colors overall with that. You can also invert the mask. Let's apply that one area there. But as you can see, you may lose a little bit of that sharpness when you do apply some of these blurred color masks. So let's go ahead and just kind of restore that. So we're going to disable the mask and go to the LRGB combination, and we're going to use the original luminance that we extracted, and we are going to go ahead and apply it, see what it does. Okay, if we go back and forward, we have essentially changed the colors that we wanted from the original. If we go all the way back, let's go to there. Let's just put up a clone, and then let's compare that with that. So this is more of just a green image that doesn't have much, color differentiation to it. And here we have a little bit more blues, greens, and some yellows in there to kind of give it more depth to this image. Alright, so I'll just close that clone out there, and then you can experiment with the amount of saturation you want to give it by bumping the saturation. If you want to give this some more color, just to whatever you like as far as taste goes. And so you can see that when we do apply the saturation component, it does give you a little bit more color to it. Now you can try to continue to stretch that image, or you can apply that original luminance mask on there, enable the mask, and you can also play around with the curves. Where's the curves? Curves transformation. So with that luminance mask applied, you can kind of bump things up, make them a little bit brighter. You can keep some of that contrast going. Do whatever you like. And so the beauty of this is that there are no stars on this image that you are expanding, bloating, or doing anything of such sorts. So if we were to apply that on there, we can see our image is just the starless version, not much going on there. So I kind of like what that did, but I'm gonna just save that as a, let's see if it if I undo it. Let's see if you redo it, if you undo it, and let's say we were just to lighten it up there and not do it as aggressively. Alright, so I kind of like that there. You still have everything that you want there. Mask, show mask, mask, enable mask. Another thing that you can try to do is, especially when you have dark pillars, you can use the dark structure enhancement tool and apply that there and see if you get something that you do like. Alright, and so if we go back and forward, you can see how overall some of these darker pillars, darker structures, they all kind of get incorporated and highlighted as far as being darker in a sense there. So now that we do have the image there, we say, okay, well, what about our stars? And so we can go ahead and, just for the purposes of using pixel math and the simplicity of writing these equations, I'm going to name that as A and A1. If you were to just add these stars onto here, we can see that we can go to Process, Pixel Math, and you can just say A plus A1, which is our image plus our stars, drag and drop, and voila, we have added the stars back onto this image, which is great. None of the stars are bloated, they're nice, tack, sharp. It gives a real nice image, but there are still some things that you can do if you are not happy with the color of the actual stars. So before we add them, we can go here. If they are magenta stars, we can go ahead and go to Image, Invert, and so all the green stars, we're going to do Process and SCNR. Let's do the green and undo them, and then we're going to go to Image, Invert again. This does make our stars white, so we can drag and drop again, and actually it makes the stars look to me a little bit green. So I will choose not to do this way, and actually instead of doing the whole image invert, I will just extract the luminance of this and apply it to our actual stars. Mask, let's show that there. And I'm not going to switch this over to the other one just because all I'm doing is just kind of looking at the preview. I know if I have the magenta stars, if you bump up the red, it's going to make them more red. But if we want to go for a little bit more of the blue look, you can essentially pull back on the red. You can bump it up a little bit overall, and you can toggle that off and on, and then apply it and see if you like it. Now it does give you a little bit of a green kind of look to the star, so I am going to go ahead and remove some of the green, bump up more of that blue, and see if that does it for me. Alright, so if we look at our stars, we are going from a kind of a reddish magenta to a more blue look, and we can go ahead and try to add them on and see what that does. And so if you are happy with how that looks there, you have essentially done the whole processing of the image without actually taking the stars into account, correcting your colors, keeping the star size and shape and kind of consistency out of the equation, and then adding them back on. This leaves the overall image with nice, small, tight stars, which really does a lot there for your image. So let's go ahead and save this as SHO final 16-bit. And let's go ahead and open this. Here. Let's open with Paint. Again, you can kind of scroll through the image and see everything on your image there. Stars are real nice, tack sharp. And if we view it full screen, that is what your image turns out. And now, colors are all personal choice and taste, so do what you want as far as your colors go and what you like to do, but really processing the image without actually taking the stars into account really protects those stars and makes it easy to just add them in at the end. So I hope you found this tutorial kind of helpful. Maybe add a couple of new processing steps to your set of processing skills or routines, and hope you find it helpful. All right.